All right, Rob, thank you very much for making time for us today. How's it going?
Good, Paul. Yeah, not bad. Couple of games into Spurs pre-season, and looking forward to a first full campaign under Antonio Conte covering the team.
Yeah, I heard the Sevilla game was a bit spicy. What was all that about?
Yeah, Sevilla were quite aggressive. Actually, I think it caught Spurs off guard a little bit, but Spurs sort of handled it completely fine. They were sort of snapping into challenges, particularly on Son. Actually, there did seem to be a concerted effort to not let him have any joy. Playing this second game in South Korea, and then there was an incident where Gonzalo Montiel, who got elbowed in the face by Son accidentally. It was an accident. He tried to haul Son down and stop a counter-attack, got a knock in the face, and then he took it to Son at half-time.
Really?
And then they had to be broken up by Eric Lamela and all this stuff. But no, it was entertaining. And and Antonio Conte, some managers, if someone had got injured, maybe he would have felt differently about it. But some managers would complain anyway. But Antonio Conte seemed to relish the fact they had a bit of a physical challenge. And Sevilla might not have been as physically fit as the Team K-League the other day, in the middle of their season, but they certainly were a more cohesive, organised side, which is completely understandable.
Yeah. There's a bit of needler between Davis and Sanchez. I think Lee Sung-woo in the Team K-League game as well. Is he always like that, Sanchez? Is he always a bit sort of on edge?
No, not really. No, not he rarely gets into any kind of bother. It's Christian Romero who's normally sort of picking his fight early. Whoever's his guy, he'll crash into early. Normally when the ball, but will give the guy a fair old whack. And he has famously done it with Richarlison, who's now his teammate, which is why when the pair shook hands at the training ground the other day, all the players cheered. Because Romero he's done it to Mikel Antonio and a number of players this season. So, there was a little bit of needle, but I thought generally the whole spirit of the game against Team K-League was pretty good.
Yeah, well, obviously Spurs arrived back in London on Monday. I think you commentated on both of the games against Team K-League and against Sevilla. How would you assess then the team's visit to South Korea? Would it have been productive in terms of their preparations for the new season?
Definitely. And from what I've been reading, I do work for Spurs TV, but I'm not partial to the inner workings of Antonio Conte. But the reports certainly seem to suggest that he had an extreme amount of control over when training was, how much training there was, how much the players were involved, even in perhaps media days and this kind of thing, because the players did a lot of media and publicity and that kind of thing. It seemed that Antonio Conte got the schedule exactly the way he wanted. And I think he has, with previous clubs, bemoaned, flying off to the States, flying off to Asia, flying off to, I don't know, Australia or something pre-season and saying it's not ideal. But I think the way they worked it was perfect for Conte. And I don't think you can have any real complaints. I think Team K-League was a more entertaining game than the Sevilla game. And it was a good workout. You could see that they were a bit sharper with their touch. Physically fitter, because it was Spurs' first game of pre-season. But the tour's being heralded as a success, not just from a footballing point of view, but from a commercial point of view as well, I think. And, for all the need for clubs to go on these kind of tours, I think it was really nice to hear Heung-min Son. He was saying to, I think he was saying to Marzi on Spurs TV after the game, he's sad how quickly the week had gone. He seemed genuinely upset not upset, but sad that this week he'd been looking forward to so much, bringing his club to his home country, was over so swiftly.
Yeah, well, speaking of the Team K-League game, I think there was a concern for us, people in Korea who obviously cover the K-League on a weekly basis, that was because it was a team put together last minute of sort of random players. We were kind of worried that it might not have been a stern enough test for Tottenham, or it might have been a bit too easy, but it wasn't. That wasn't really the case, was it? It wasn't too bad of a game until they made loads of substitutions, and then it kind of went to pot a little bit. But what were your assessments of the Team K-League performance?
No, I felt that, and as I've mentioned already, I felt they were just a bit sharper. Fundamentally, front to back, Spurs have better players. There was obviously no doubt about that. Antonio Conte went extremely strong. He clearly felt he couldn't start Kane and Son because they'd come back later. they were seeing, well, Kane certainly was throwing up at the end of the first training session, the open training session on the Monday. They were being worked so hard. So he still went very strong. It was all first team players. He's barely taken out any young players on this tour. This game was important to Antonio Conte, and I think he felt he couldn't burn through these fixtures because there's only 4 before the Premier League season starts. Till Southampton visit on the 6th of August. And I think that first half, it was 1-1 first half. I don't know what you thought, Paul. I mean, we spoke before the game and you were telling me how it wasn't exactly a K-League all-star team. That due to the diplomatic nature of the way the squad was assembled with 2 players from each squad, that it was there was a bit of balancing and the way it worked. But I thought it was a really good challenge. I thought there was lots of technical quality. There was a desire to play out from the back, even though a lot of these players didn't know each other most likely. I know there was a few internationals, but fair to say it wasn't packed with international players, was it?
No, there wasn't that many, no. Just the captain, Kim Jin-soo, who played at left back, he's played in quite a lot of games for Korea, but he's always missed World Cups because he always gets injured before a World Cup. So, like, last time he missed it, so he's hoping that this time around he won't miss the World Cup. But yeah, he's probably the one who's the most capped.
And he was probably the best player, I thought, actually. Yeah. He was the one player where you came away and thought he's the closest to the level technically of these Spurs players of any other player. His deliveries from the left-hand side, the way he was, he had a tricky task down that right-hand side because it was Bryan Hill, then Lucas Moura, Richarlison, Emerson Royal. But I thought he looked the most composed of the group. And then a player who, because I spoke to you and you were giving me great tips on the players and everything pre-match, Yang Hyun-jun, who came on, who was probably the player who I had the least information on, actually, when I just look back at my notes. He was probably, I thought, the best player on the day for Team K-League because he came on and changed things. He was direct. Didn't lack any confidence. And I was so impressed with him. He was the one player off the back of the game. I was like, he was excellent. And I don't doubt that Antonio Conte felt it was a good challenge front to finish.
Yeah, well, Yang Hyun-jun, he scored a hat-trick at the weekend in K-League.
Did he?
Would you believe? Yeah, he scored. I'll try and send you the video of the highlights, but he scored a back heel. He scored a little chip. It was, it's like, what a week it's been for him because he's been under the radar a little bit with Gangwon because they've had a sort of, very average season really. But he's had a great week.
I didn't know that. That's great to hear because honestly, I felt he was a level above a lot of his teammates the way he came on and the way he was playing. I mean, he's only 20, isn't he, or something like that? So that's great. I love that he did that. I don't know what you thought about how the team performed, Paul, because we were speaking about the Juve game and from 2019 and how they were 3-1 up and it finished 3-3 after a number of changes. Do you think the players did themselves proud in the game against Spurs?
I think they did, but because most of them had like a 30-minute cameo, it felt like a revolving door of substitutions all the time. And it was like once, for example, when Lars Veldevic scored, he came off almost straight away. It's like he was just getting going, and then in the first half, for the first 30 minutes, Lee Sung-woo was playing quite well, and then he got taken off. And I thought there was too many subs made at the same time. I know it's a friendly, and I know that I'm looking at it from probably the wrong angle because it's not really about Team K-League, really. It's about the team coming over and Son Heung-min and stuff and trying to make it more of a spectacle for the fans. But it just felt like they could have maybe not made so many subs at the same time.
Veldwijk coming off was actually a bit surprising because he had come on. He came on and then he scored. And then he came off. That it reeked to me because I know, he's very important for Suwon that of an agreement with the club.
Yeah,
30 minutes until he scores and then he's off.
Yeah, because the assistant coach was his manager for Suwon FC. The guy who was like the assistant manager for Team K-League was his manager for Suwon. So it's like, get him off.
That might have been it. I think there was a little bit of that probably at play. But no, it was, and it was fragmented at the end because then the goals started raining in.
Yeah.
But Lloris got beaten by a couple of soft goals from distance. I felt like, including Veldwijk's.
Yeah, the Imano June free kick was good, wasn't it? It was a good free kick. But you're right. It should have been.
And that wall, and the wall split. for that free kick. But he had obviously just had that ridiculous handball for the penalty moments before. So he had a very unusual few minutes in that game.
Yeah. It was almost like a pantomime. It was like we had to give Son a chance, but Son was going to get a chance anyway, wasn't he? You know, it didn't need to give him a penalty to try and score. You know, it was kind of strange.
You sort of indirectly got gifted 2 goals, I suppose, in a sense, then, because you got the penalty and Kane's the penalty taker. He let Son have that one, and then ball was played to him for the second goal. But then he was brought down through on goal by
Kim Dong-min.
Yeah, Kim Dong-min got sent off. That was funny because it was so
funny. He was just like, you know what? I don't care if you're Son Heung-min. I'm going to try and make sure that you don't score. It's great fun.
I got the feeling the crowd sort of hated him because everyone wanted to see Son score. But I loved it.
Yeah,
Took it seriously. Yeah.
All right. Well, for Sonny, obviously he's 30 years old now. Not won a trophy, as we talked about before the game. From what you've seen of this Tottenham team under Conte, can this be the year for Spurs, and obviously for players like Son and Kane to win a bit of major silverware finally?
No, I sincerely believe it. I think even, I've been covering the team for 4 years now. It's been my 5th season. I've never remembered the optimism being so high. And remember that my first season came off the back of losing a Champions League final to Liverpool, where they'd comfortably finished in the top 4. They had some memorable nights and got to a Champions League final. I only lost really probably because Harry Kane wasn't fit. He wasn't as fit as they would have liked for that final. But the fact that the team was so good at the back end of the season, the fact that the players, he's been ruthless. There seems to have been a change in mentality in terms of transfers, or willing to buy older players like Ivan Perisic. And then also spend big money like on Richarlison, 50, 60 million pounds or whatever he is, for a player who won't necessarily be a starter. Because they've got Kulusevski, Kane and Son, who were unbelievable last year. Shows that there's maybe been a little mentality shift between Daniel Levy, Fabio Paratici, Conte's, right-hand man in essence, the managing director, the director of football, if you like. And Son deserves a trophy, for all the individual accolades. And Kane talks about them. He's won numerous golden boots, and now Sonny has one. These are 2 of the best players of their generation. I really believe that. I think Son and Kane have been in the top 20, 30 players for some time. I think Kane is marginally a better player than him in Son. I think if you saw Kane week in, week out, you'd really understand his excellence. That if he was maybe at Real Madrid or something, he'd have 5 league titles and 2 Champions Leagues and all the rest of it. So him and Kane and Son in particular deserve to play in the Champions League, fundamentally win trophies. And given the way that Spurs have gone about their business, they know the system, this 3-4-3, very specific under Conte, knows exactly what he wants. They've already got 5-6 signings through the door, exactly the players he wants. Then that's why there's an optimism I can't remember there being going into a new season. And I don't think it's unjustified. I think Spurs should be aiming to win something. It's tough to challenge City and Liverpool for the Premier League. They're just another level still.
Yeah.
But everything else is up for grabs, I think.
Yeah. All right, well, last question then. What's been your favourite Son Heung-min moment during your time commentating on Tottenham Hotspur games?
Oh, that's a good one. God, there are so many.
Yeah.
I was even chatting to him at the back end of the season on Spurs TV. He was like pitch side with us, and I was asking, because he always scores in front of the South Stand, which is the big cop stand down at the end of Tottenham Hotspur Stand. I'm like, you always scored down that end of the pitch, and I feel like in big moments he does deliver. He scored the first goal at the new stadium. He scored the first Champions League goal at the new stadium against City. He scored the first goal of the Mourinho era, the first goal of the Conte era, the first goal of the Nuno era, that winner against City last year. Like, he's such a big game player. I think back to when he scored 2 away at City in the 4-3 Champions League win. I think of being there for his Burnley Puskas winning goal, which was extraordinary. I don't know, it's really tough. There was a first half behind closed doors against Arsenal when Spurs won 2-0. And Kane and Son set each other up. It was classic for goals. 2-0 up at half-time and beat them. They were insane. Their link-up play at that point under Mourinho was just something like I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
But, it'd probably be hard not to say the Puskas goal. That was a joy to be at, privilege to be at, one of those kind of moments. But he's had so many. Like I've said, he's a big game player. He's got that mentality. And struggle to pick one. But I'll go for running from your own penalty area and scoring at the other end. That's not bad.
Yeah. And for me, as a Preston fan, scoring against Burnley was quite nice to see. So,
yeah, there you go. You got the double whammy in there.
There you go. All right, Rob, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll speak again sometime soon.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have thought, Paul, they might go back.
Yeah.
Not in the too distant future, such was the success, and the players all loved it. Clearly, they've all been, I've been speaking to all the Spurs TV guys, and they've been gushing about the trip. So I don't think it's impossible they'll be back, and maybe we'll be speaking in another pre-season or two.
Hopefully, mate. Cheers. Yeah, thank you.